Good to have you with us on BBC News. One main headline this hour. The US is admitting setbacks in the fight against the so-called Islamic State militants in Palmyra in Syria and Ramadi in Iraq, but it insists the war is not being lost. Stay with that story. Arash Aramesh is a national security analyst focusing on the Middle East and the Persian Gulf. We can speak to him now in Los Angeles. Good to talk to you. Thanks for your time. Well, do you think this war against Islamic State is being won or lost?
Well, the war against the Islamic State in Iraq has certainly met some setbacks. And there is really not much of a strategy in Syria for the Obama administration to fight ISIS. If you look at the map right now, you would see that the Islamic State, or the so-called caliphate, controls a little over half of Syrian territory and about a third of Iraqi territory. Now, if you come to Iraq from the Syrian side, along the Euphrates River, you would see that almost every major city and township, with the exception of Haditha, is now controlled by ISIS. So they pose a real threat, a real challenge. And unfortunately, the Iraqi army in Iraq and the Syrian government in Syria and other Syrian rebels are really not a good match to fight and push back the ISIS forces. And it really requires a better, more organized, and a better-willed global coalition to fight back this terrorist state.
Well, what are the chances of that, would you say? What are the options for the governments in Baghdad, in Damascus, and in Washington, D.C.?
Without much foreign support, chances of the Iraqi or the Syrian government or the Syrian opposition making some gains against ISIS are limited to none. The Obama administration has three options, and they can employ one, two, or preferably all three options. The first thing to do is they can arm the Kurds. They haven't really armed the Kurds because there's been much objection coming from the government in Baghdad not to arm a regional government in north of Iraq. So that's one thing, arming the Kurds. The Kurds have proven to be rather loyal U.S. allies and pro-Western, and that would enhance our chances in Iraq. The second thing that we can do is we got to pick our enemies. It is true that Iran is not necessarily a U.S. ally, but the Iranians are now supporting Shiite militias who are in a bitter fight with ISIS. It would be prudent to provide air support for those Shiite militias, helping the Iraqi army fight ISIS. And third, commit some boots to the ground. Now, I'm not saying send in the 3rd Infantry Division or go in for a full-scale invasion like 2003, but doing what we did last week in Syria, committing some special forces to the ground to be able to carry out attacks, take out targets, and also be able to take out high-value targets for interrogations. If we do all these three in coordination with each other, our chances will be slightly advanced. Very quickly, in the Iraq War, when we took back the Ramadi back in 2006, 2007, there was about 10,000 sorties of flights being flown every day. We're not even flying anything nearly close to that. So this air campaign is not a full-fledged, real air campaign taking out all ISIS targets.
Arash, thank you very much for your insights.